The crystalline pendant. The iridescent rings of Kepler 186 cast prismatic shadows across the research station's observation deck as Dr. Nora Bennett adjusted her atmospheric scanner. 6 months into the expedition, and she still couldn't quite believe she was here, light years from Earth, studying the first confirmed ruins of an extraterrestrial civilization. "Dr. Bennett, you might want to see this," called out her research assistant through the comm system. "We're picking up some unusual energy signatures from Sector 7. Nora grabbed her field kit and headed toward the airlock. As the station's lead xenorchaeologist, any anomaly required her personal attention. The preservation dome over the dig site hummed with ionic energy as she made her way through the carefully excavated remains of what appeared to be an ancient temple complex. The energy signature led her to a previously unopened chamber, its walls adorned with crystalline formations that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. But it wasn't the crystals that made her breath catch in her throat. It was the figure standing in the center of the room, tall and ethereal, with skin that seemed to shift between translucent and opalescent. "Hello, Earth Dweller," the being spoke, its voice resonating directly in Nora's mind. "I am Vilith, Keeper of Memories." Nora's hand instinctively went to her translator device, but Vilith raised a graceful hand. "Your technology isn't necessary. We've been studying your language since your arrival." "We?" Nora managed to ask, her scientific training warring with her instinct to run. "There are more of you." Vilith moved closer, each step seeming to ripple the air around her. "Once, there were many. Now, I maintain vigil alone, watching over what remains of our legacy." The implications staggered Nora. All this time, they'd been studying what they thought were abandoned ruins, when in fact, they had a living member of this ancient civilization right here. "But our scans, we never detected any life signs. Your instruments see what they expect to see," Vilith explained, touching one of the crystal formations. It brightened at her touch. "My people, the Lyra, evolved beyond what you would recognize as biological life long ago. We became beings of pure energy and consciousness, choosing to remain in these crystalline matrices to preserve our knowledge." Over the next few weeks, Nora found herself spending every available moment with Vilith, learning about the Lyran civilization. The alien shared stories of their technological achievements, their artistic treasures, and their eventual decision to transcend physical form. But it was the personal moments that fascinated Nora most. The way Vilith's form would shimmer with emotion, how she could make the crystals sing with memories of her people's music. "Your curiosity reminds me of my own," Vilith told her one day as they examined ancient star charts. "Before my transformation, I too was a scholar, seeking to understand the mysteries of existence." Nora looked up from her notes. "Do you ever regret it?" "The transformation." Vilith's form flickered thoughtfully. "Regret is a complex emotion for my kind now. We gained so much knowledge, but we lost something too. The ability to fully connect with other forms of life. Until you arrived." Something in Vilith's tone made Nora's heart race. "What do you mean?" "Your species possesses something unique, a resonance we haven't encountered before. Your emotions, your consciousness, they create patterns similar to our own crystalline matrices. You're the first beings we've met who might be capable of truly understanding us." As the days passed, Nora found herself sharing more personal stories with Vilith, her childhood dreams of touching the stars, the loss of her grandmother, who had inspired her scientific career, the endless questions that drove her to explore the unknown. In return, Vilith revealed more about the loneliness of being the last active keeper, watching civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy, unable to interact with most of them. The day before the research team was scheduled to begin their return journey to Earth, Nora made an impulsive decision. She reached into her collar and pulled out the crystal pendant she always wore, her grandmother's last gift to her. "I want you to have this," she said, unclasping the chain. "It's not as advanced as your crystals, but it's been in my family for generations. Grandmother said it was found in a meteor crater centuries ago." Vilith's form pulsed with surprise as she examined the pendant. "This is extraordinary. The resonance pattern. Nora, do you understand what you're giving me?" "It's a reminder," Nora said softly, "that even across the vastness of space, connections can be made. Friendships can form." As Vilith accepted the pendant, the crystals around them began to hum with a harmony Nora had never heard before. "Then I accept this gift with its true weight," Vilith said solemnly. "And I promise you, Nora Bennett, this connection will echo across the stars." Neither of them could have known then just how prophetic those words would prove to be. Echoes across stars. 3 years passed on Earth, but Nora Bennett's dreams remained filled with crystalline songs and shimmering lights. She threw herself into analyzing the data from Kepler 186f, publishing groundbreaking papers about ancient alien architecture that carefully omitted any mention of Vilith. Some truths, she knew, the world wasn't ready to hear. The scientific community celebrated her discoveries, but her colleagues noticed changes in her. She spent countless hours in her lab at the Astroarchaeological Institute, studying the peculiar properties of crystals. Her office walls became covered with complex equations attempting to explain consciousness as energy patterns rather than biochemical processes. "You're obsessed, Nora," her colleague Dr. Rashid told her one evening, finding her still at work long after everyone else had left. "These theories about crystalline consciousness, they're beautiful, but they're unprovable. You're risking your reputation." Nora touched the empty spot at her throat where her grandmother's pendant had once rested. "What if they're not unprovable? What if we're just looking at consciousness all wrong?" That night, as she drove home through the rain-slicked streets of Boston, her car's radio began picking up strange frequencies. Through the static, she could have sworn she heard harmonies similar to the crystal songs of Kepler 186f. But before she could record anything, the interference cleared. Similar incidents followed. Her phone would display cascading patterns of light that reminded her of Vilith's movements. Her computer would occasionally flash with code that looked like the ancient Lyran symbols she'd studied. Each time, she tried to document the phenomena, but they remained frustratingly elusive. Then came the dreams. Not the usual memories of her time with Vilith, but something more immediate. In them, she saw streams of consciousness flowing through the cosmos like rivers of light. She witnessed civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds, all connected by an invisible network of crystalline resonance. One morning, she woke to find her bedroom bathed in a familiar opalescent glow. On her bedside table sat a crystal, no larger than her thumb, that hadn't been there when she'd gone to sleep. When she touched it, her mind filled with Vilith's voice. "The gift you gave me was more significant than either of us knew," the message began. "Your grandmother's pendant. It wasn't just any crystal. It was a fragment of the Lyran consciousness matrix, lost to Earth eons ago. By giving it to me, you've reactivated an ancient network of communication." Nora spent the next several months in a fever of research and experimentation. She converted her home office into a makeshift lab, filling it with crystalline formations and sensitive detection equipment. She began to understand that consciousness itself could resonate across vast distances, carried by a medium that human science had yet to discover. The breakthrough came on a quiet Sunday afternoon. She had been meditating among her crystals, trying to recreate the mental state she'd experienced in Vilith's presence, when suddenly the air around her began to shimmer. The crystals in her lab hummed with familiar harmonies, and in their faceted surfaces, she saw reflections of places across the galaxy. "You've done it," Vilith's voice echoed in her mind. "You've learned to access the network." Through this crystalline connection, Vilith explained how human consciousness possessed unique properties that allowed it to interact with the Lyran matrix. The gift of the pendant hadn't just been a sentimental gesture. It had been proof that humans and Lyrans could form a genuine connection across the boundaries of physical form. But with this revelation came a warning. "Others have noticed, Nora. There are those among the sleeping Lyrans who believe this connection threatens the purity of our transcendence. They stir in their matrices, debating whether to awaken fully for the first time in millennia. What does that mean? Nora asked into the resonating air. Are we in danger? Not danger, precisely. Violet's response came slowly. But change is coming. The gift you gave me. It's become a symbol to my people. Some see it as hope for a new kind of existence, a bridge between physical and energy beings. Others see it as a step backward, a return to the limitations we sought to transcend. As the connection faded, Nora sat among her humming crystals, understanding that her impulsive act of friendship had set in motion events that could reshape the relationship between two civilizations. The pendant she'd given Vilith wasn't just echoing across stars. It was echoing across the very nature of consciousness itself. She knew then that her life's work had only just begun, and somewhere across the vast expanse of space, an alien being wore her grandmother's pendant, its crystalline structure resonating with possibilities neither of them had imagined. Temporal waves. The first sign that something had fundamentally changed came when Nora noticed she could see time, not in the traditional sense of watching seconds tick by, but as actual waves of probability rippling through the air around her. The crystalline network she tapped into wasn't just spanning space, it was reaching across temporal dimensions as well. Her small lab in Boston had become a nexus of strange phenomena. The crystals she'd gathered would sometimes rearrange themselves while she slept, forming complex geometric patterns that reminded her of the temple walls on Kepler 186. Other researchers at the Institute had started to notice that electronic equipment behaved oddly around her, displaying impossible readings and picking up signals that shouldn't exist. Dr. Bennett, her research assistant Julian, whispered one day, closing the lab door behind him, "I think you should see this." He pulled up a series of satellite images on his tablet. They showed mysterious energy signatures appearing around the globe, all emanating from crystalline formations previously thought to be ordinary minerals. "They're waking up," Nora murmured, recognizing the pattern of resonance. "The Lyran consciousness matrices, they're everywhere. They'd been here all along." That night, as she sat among her humming crystals, a new presence joined her consciousness. Unlike Vilith's familiar resonance, this one felt ancient and multiple, as if many minds were speaking as one. Nora Bennett. The presence addressed her. "We are the Council of Keepers. Your actions have forced us to stir from our long contemplation. The gift you gave to Vilith has created ripples we can no longer ignore." Through the crystalline network, they showed her visions of Earth's past. She saw her grandmother finding the pendant in that meteor crater, but now she understood it wasn't a random event. The Lyrans had been seeding consciousness matrices across the galaxy for eons, watching, waiting to see which species might evolve the ability to connect with them. "Humanity stands at a crossroads," the Council continued. "Your gift to Vilith proved what some of us had long suspected, that your species has developed a unique form of consciousness. You exist in physical form, yet your minds can resonate with our crystalline matrices. You are both matter and energy, bound and free." The implication staggered Nora. Is that why I can see time now? Why the crystals respond to human presence? Yes, the network you accessed was designed to identify and nurture species with this potential. But now we face a dilemma. Some among us believe humanity should be guided toward transcendence, as we were. Others fear your hybrid nature might destabilize the very fabric of consciousness itself. As if to demonstrate their point, the air around Nora rippled with temporal distortions. She saw possible futures branching out like crystalline formations. Humanity transcending physical form, humans and Lyrans creating a new kind of civilization together, and darker possibilities where the attempt to bridge their two forms of existence led to catastrophe. Vilith's acceptance of your gift was more than a personal choice, the Council revealed. It was an activation signal. Every consciousness matrix on Earth is now awakening, responding to human resonance. The process cannot be stopped. Through her connection to the network, Nora felt the stirring of ancient minds across the planet. Crystalline formations that humans had dismissed as mere minerals were beginning to pulse with alien consciousness. The very ground beneath her feet was alive with dormant intelligence. But why now? Nora asked. Why did my grandmother's pendant trigger all this? The pendant was a key, they explained, coded to activate only when freely given between species, driven by genuine connection rather than scientific curiosity or diplomatic calculation. Your act of friendship with Vilith provided the final proof that humanity was ready. As the Council's presence faded, Nora remained connected to the crystalline network, watching temporal waves wash through her lab. She understood now that her impulsive gift had done more than forge a bond between two individuals. It had initiated a process that would transform both species. In the crystalline resonance, she caught glimpses of Vilith, still wearing the pendant, working to prepare both their peoples for what was to come. The gift hadn't just bridged space or consciousness. It had bridged destinies. And somewhere in the quantum foam of space-time, Nora sensed other forces stirring. Not all the ancient Lyrans welcomed this convergence of species. As more consciousness matrices awakened around Earth, she knew the real challenges were just beginning. Resonance of truth. The world changed quickly after the awakening began. Crystal formations around the globe pulsed with alien consciousness, and humans with sensitivity to the network started reporting strange experiences. Nora found herself at the center of an international storm as governments and scientists struggled to understand what was happening. She sat in her lab, now under heavy security protection, watching news feeds show footage of glowing crystal outcrops in the Rockies, the Alps, the Himalayas. The Lyran matrices weren't just scattered randomly. They formed a precise geometric pattern across Earth's surface, a network that had been waiting millennia to activate. Dr. Bennett, a voice called from her doorway. She turned to find Director Harrison from the Global Response Initiative. We need your expertise. Something's happening at the Crystal Palace site. The Crystal Palace, as the media had dubbed it, was a massive crystalline structure that had emerged from beneath the Antarctic ice. It served as the primary hub of Lyran communication on Earth, and Nora had been studying it for weeks. The temporal distortions are increasing, Harrison explained as they hurried to the Situation Room. And we're picking up what appears to be a message, but our linguists can't decode it. Nora felt it before she saw it, a familiar resonance that made her heart race. On the monitors, the Crystal Palace blazed with internal light, its faceted surfaces reflecting patterns that seemed to bend reality itself. It's Vilith, she breathed, reaching out to touch the screen. She's coming. The air in the Situation Room began to shimmer, and suddenly Vilith stood before them, more corporeal than Nora had ever seen her. Around her neck, the grandmother's pendant glowed with an inner fire. The time has come, Vilith announced, her voice carrying both in their minds and in the air. The truth can no longer be hidden. Through the crystalline network, she shared visions that shook Nora to her core. The Lyrans hadn't just been watching humanity's development. They had been guiding it. The consciousness matrices scattered across Earth were part of a grand experiment, seeding the potential for a new kind of existence. Your grandmother didn't find the pendant by accident, Vilith revealed, her form rippling with emotion. She was chosen, as her consciousness showed the first signs of resonance compatibility. We've been waiting generations for the right moment, the right person, to bridge our worlds. Director Harrison stepped forward, his face pale. Are you saying you've been manipulating human evolution? Not manipulating, Vilith corrected. Nurturing. Humanity's unique consciousness emerged on its own. We simply provided opportunities for it to develop in certain directions. The ability to connect with our matrices was always within you. Nora understood then why her gift had carried such weight. The pendant, it was a test, wasn't it? To see if humans could form genuine connections with your kind without being guided. Yes, Vilith acknowledged. But it became more than that. Your gift, freely given out of friendship rather than duty or scientific curiosity, proved that genuine bonds could form between our species. It showed us that humanity might succeed where the Lyrans had failed. failed? Nora asked, sensing deeper currents in Vilith's words. We achieved transcendence, yes, but at a cost. We lost touch with the physical realm, with the raw emotion and spontaneity that makes consciousness truly alive. We became observers, separate from the very reality we sought to understand. But humanity, you've developed consciousness that can bridge both states of being. The monitors around them flickered with temporal distortions as Vilith continued. The Council is divided. Some see humanity's potential as the next step in consciousness evolution. Others fear it will undo ends of Lyran development. The awakening of the matrices has forced a decision. What kind of decision? Harrison demanded. Whether to proceed with full integration, to allow humanity access to the complete Lyran network, or to shut down the matrices forever, severing the connection between our species. Nora felt the weight of that choice in her very atoms. When will they decide? Vilith's form pulsed with urgency. They already have. That's why I'm here. The Council has declared that humanity must prove its readiness. They've issued a challenge, one that will test not just your technological capabilities, but your capacity for genuine connection and understanding. Through the network, Nora sensed the magnitude of what was coming. This wasn't just about proving humanity's worth to the Lyrans. It was about choosing a path forward for both species, about finding a way to combine the best aspects of physical and transcendent existence. And at the center of it all was a simple crystal pendant, given in friendship, that had become the key to humanity's cosmic destiny. Beyond the cosmic veil, the challenge came at dawn. Every crystalline matrix on Earth activated simultaneously, creating a network of light visible from space. In her lab, Nora stood surrounded by holographic projections of the Council of Keepers, their energy forms flickering with anticipation. Humanity must choose, they announced. The gift you gave, Nora Bennett, showed us the potential for connection. Now you must prove that potential can scale beyond individual bonds. The test was elegant in its simplicity but monumental in its implications. The Council had created a crystalline maze that existed simultaneously in physical space and in the realm of pure consciousness. To navigate it, humanity would need to demonstrate mastery of both states of being. You have 3 days, Vilith explained, her form shimmering beside Nora. 3 days to show that humans can maintain their unique dual nature, to prove you can touch transcendence without losing your physical essence. Teams of scientists, philosophers, and sensitives gathered at the Crystal Palace in Antarctica. Among them, Nora found herself in a unique position. Her connection with Vilith, forged through the simple act of giving her grandmother's pendant, had already proven that bridging the gap was possible. But as they began their attempts to solve the maze, Nora realized something profound. We're approaching this wrong, she announced to the assembled teams. We're trying to solve this like a scientific problem, but that's not what my gift to Vilith was about. She stepped into the crystalline construct, feeling the familiar resonance wash over her. The pendant wasn't valuable because of its composition or its history. It was valuable because it carried meaning, because it represented connection. Through the network, she felt Vilith's consciousness brush against hers, carrying approval. The other humans watched in amazement as Nora began to glow with the same opalescent light as the Lyran matrices. The maze isn't meant to be solved, she called out to her colleagues. It's meant to be experienced. We don't need to choose between physical and energy forms. We need to embrace both simultaneously. Understanding rippled through the assembled humans. One by one, they stepped forward, allowing themselves to resonate with the crystalline network while maintaining their physical forms. The maze responded, its pathways shifting and flowing around them like liquid light. Nora felt the moment everything changed. The barrier between matter and energy, between consciousness and form, became permeable. Humans and Lyrans found themselves existing in a shared space, neither fully physical nor fully transcendent, but something gloriously in between. This is what we've been waiting for, the Council's voice echoed through the network. Not for humanity to follow our path to transcendence, but to forge a new path altogether. Through her connection with Vilith, Nora saw the full scope of what they had achieved. The gift of her grandmother's pendant hadn't just been a catalyst, it had been a prophecy. It showed that the future lay not in choosing between states of being, but in finding ways to bridge them. The Crystal Palace transformed, becoming a permanent nexus between human and Lyran existence. Around the globe, the awakened matrices pulsed with new purpose, no longer just observing humanity, but actively participating in a shared evolution. Vilith appeared beside Nora, now able to shift seamlessly between energy and semi-physical form. The pendant around her neck glowed with an inner light that matched the radiance in her eyes. "Your grandmother knew," Vilith said softly. "When she found the crystal, she sensed its potential. She kept it safe, waiting for the right moment, the right person to complete the connection." Nora reached out, her hand passing through and yet somehow touching Vilith's ethereal form. "What happens now?" "Now," Vilith smiled, "we explore what it truly means to exist beyond the cosmic veil, together." The crystalline network hummed with possibility as humans and Lyrans began their shared journey. Some chose to remain primarily physical, while others explored deeper states of transcendence, but all remained connected through the bridges they had built. And in the heart of the Crystal Palace, a simple pendant continued to glow, a reminder that the greatest transformations often begin with the smallest acts of connection. The gift Nora had given years ago had done more than bridge two worlds. It had opened the door to an entirely new way of being, proving that consciousness, like love, knows no bounds.